When a baby is born, another thing that is given to him is a new name. And we are told that we are called by his name, right? Name has nothing to do with pronunciation. Name has to do with character. It has to do with being a reflection of who Messiah, who Jesus Christ is. Because as he is, so are we in this world. Paul says in Romans 8:13, "For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Spirit do mortify or put to death the deeds of the body, you shall have life." So remember, there is a battle within each and every one of us. There is spirit and there is flesh. And they're always against each other. Sometimes, if you read Romans, at the end of Romans chapter 7, I don't remember the verse, Paul says that the things that I want to do, I do not do, and the things I don't want to do, those are the things that I keep on doing. That is the battle that we all have to face. And then he says, the law of sin is that sin dwells within me. That's why this body of flesh is the very definition of sin. And this body of flesh will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Flesh profits nothing. And then in Colossians 3:5, he says, therefore put to death your members which are on the earth. Remember, we were all made of the earth. If you read Genesis, we are dust, and to dust we shall return. We are vessels of clay. We are a soul dwelling in this clay, and that's where we will return. This body will not enter the kingdom of heaven, no matter what.
Let me just add something there quickly. When it says put your members to death, he's not talking about going and killing your followers. I'm just saying, he's not talking about you going and hurting your followers. And you can see that this is a spiritual message.
Spiritually.
Because there are cults that used these specific scriptures and they went and took things physically. And I would say 3/4 of the people that read that verse, in your heart you knew he's not asking you physically to go and kill or hurt these people. What are the members? Just so we can...
Okay. When you're talking to a body, I am a body.
Mm-hmm.
I also have members. I have hands, feet. I have a big mouth, right? I have ears that sometimes choose not to hear. I have eyes that look at things that I should not be looking. So this is how Paul defines the members. So he says, put to death your members which are on the earth. Why the earth? Because that's where we come from. And the earth is cursed. Fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desires, covetousness, which is idolatry. Those are the members of this body. And that's why he called this body the body of this death. As soon as we are conceived, we begin to decay. And we may last, 70, 80, 90 years if we're lucky. And then we'll return to the earth. But that is what is in this flesh. Fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil, all this stuff. Yeshua says the same thing. If you read Mark chapter 7, he says, out of the heart of man comes all these evil things. So that's why that to defile the temple of God is not defiled by somebody out there in the Middle East. The defilement of the temple of God, which you are, comes from inside of you. And once you realize who is sitting in the temple of your heart, then you will understand who the man of sin is. And I assure you, it's not somebody out there in Europe or the Middle East.
There might be a shadow.
Could be a shadow.
But it's not the spiritual message. Because
Right.
the shadow leads.
That is not the temple that is being defiled.
Yeshua didn't come to save a physical temple somewhere far away.
Right.
He came for you and he came for me.
Yes. So to be born again is to undergo a radical spiritual rebirth, moving from a life dominated by sin that brings death to a life that grows in relationship with God. It is a process of transformation that begins with recognizing one's need of a Savior, repenting from sin, dying with Him, and placing faith in Messiah in order for Him to fill you with His Spirit. This transformation was symbolized through circumcision of the flesh, which God said He would do. If you remember in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 6, it says that God will circumcise your heart and He will cause you to love God with all of your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. That is the circumcision that matters. In the physical, in the literal, we know that circumcision is the cutting of the foreskin of a boy when he's 8 days old, and it came to represent the purifying of the human heart. But think about it. If you look at a little baby, 8 days old, do you think that they need to have their hearts purified? Just a baby. A baby who doesn't know what good or evil is. 8 is the number for what?
New beginning.
New beginning. So, a new beginning, if you go back to the beginning, in the beginning, a new beginning is the new creation that God is forming, that is making us. So flesh became synonymous with carnal mind that is at enmity against God and against His commandment. That's why the carnal mind hates the law of God. It cannot be subject to the law of God. So the idea that the carnal man can obey the Ten Commandments, or let alone the 613 laws of God, is impossible. And you will say, well, so what are we supposed to obey? The law of not wearing, different materials on the things that we wear. You have to understand what the law is. And Paul says the law is spiritual, but I am carnal. So every law that you think that it has no meaning to you has a spiritual message that you can apply in your life. Even those laws that seem to be completely irrelevant to us. It is God that He will give you understanding. Why? Because the law is spiritual. It's always been.
Can we look at one of those laws? Like one of the things that people were told not to do is mix milk and meat.
Right.
And that was as people would say, in the Old Testament. So physically, it tells you not to do this because it's a shadow, right? What is the spiritual meaning of not mixing milk and meat? You can give us a little bit.
Well, one of the things is that the rabbis who made it to sound that way. Mm-hmm. If you remember when Abraham, he was in his tent and then he saw 3 men coming, and we know they're God. And do you remember what he made for them?
Did he not have cheese and meat or something?
Yeah. So those are rules of men. Think about it. In the Torah, in Leviticus, we're told that we're not supposed to sow a field, the same field with different seed, because it will defile the field. And yet, if you go to the Garden of Eden, it was not Adam that planted the garden; it was God. And right in the midst of the garden, you have 2 seeds that are completely different. One produces life; the other one brings forth death. And that was from God Himself. So understanding, or there's the one that says that you shall not boil a kid in the mother's milk. And I know the rabbis will say, well, yeah, because that's kind of heartless when you do that. But yes, there is a spiritual meaning. And there is a spiritual meaning about not making clothing with different types of material, whatever. What I'm trying to say, even if we don't understand it, let God work on you. And if you search it, He will open your heart to see something that you had not seen before. And you will see that those laws that seem to be completely irrelevant, they will have meaning in your life, spiritually speaking, because the word is spirit, and the spirit always is. The spirit has no expiration date.